So today's topic has been marriage and divorce. And I said something interesting about a good tree not being able to bear bad fruit, and vice versa, a bad tree not being able to bear good fruit. That's something that is biblical, it says it in scripture. And what does it really mean, I wonder? Because what is fruit? I think fruit is something that takes a while and a lot of nurturing, a lot of growth to come into fruition. And it has the capacity to grow more trees and thus an orchard of fruit. And it doesn't mean a blossom, say, on a pear tree. We all have blossoms of sin, okay? All of us. And that's what I meant in my last video when I said atrocious behavior. Even a blossom of sin is atrocious behavior. But it goes beyond that to abomination when we're bearing bad fruit. Bad fruit takes a long time to cultivate, right? A good tree will not bear bad fruit. I would say, in this topic of my marriage, right, both my wife and I were bearing bad fruit, stuff that took us years to cultivate, things like serious depression. And there's a lie about things like depression and bipolar disorder, that it's a chemical imbalance, but none of that's ever been proven medically. In fact, Western medicine lied to sell medicine. You see what I mean? They're so in bed with pharmacologists and big pharma and the insurance companies that they propagate things that aren't true. And one of those things is that bipolar disorder or depression have been proven to be chemical imbalances. I can tell you a little bit of serotonin will cheer somebody up, but it's temporary. And the small amount of serotonin their brain was producing your brain will stop producing it if you're on SSRIs. But okay, let me digress a little bit from there and just say it's not a chemical imbalance. I promise you. Do the actual research. There are some studies that indicate that it may be, but it's never been proven. And SSRIs are shown to be less effective than listening to happy music. So in other words, even if there is a mild chemical imbalance, you can override it by doing positive things, like listening to good music and having good coping skills, exercising, eating right. All those things are more effective than pills. So anyway, it took a long time, is what I'm saying, for my wife and myself to cultivate mental illness and to make that our norm and to go listening to liars like doctors and not going to the source, which is God. And that, and then, okay, one for me is a bad coping skill, substance abuse, abusing alcohol, right? Which made things immensely worse, because that is bad fruit that I've bared over time. It's gotten worse and worse, right? And I'm planting more seeds and growing more trees and bearing more fruit. And the more you drink, the worse it gets, right? That was a choice, right? Some free will. And under the state of drunkenness, which is, it says clearly in scripture, drunkards do not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Under that state, I'm now susceptible to any demonic oppression that may be around me. And I'm basically a puppet to the devil, doing horrible things while I'm drunk, waking up, not knowing what happened, hearing the stories. And that was my wife's grounds for divorce, was that I was getting so drunk I was doing crazy things, abusive things physically. She says that she felt unsafe in her environment. Now, I can tell you that I cultivated all this bad fruit that I was bearing constantly, right? But she did too. And some of her bad fruit is like dominating conversations. And when somebody does that and doesn't allow a person to express their opinions or beliefs or things like that, by the techniques that are used with manipulative people are often they'll stonewall you, they'll gaslight you, they'll use extreme mood swings and aggression to back you down. Because the best thing you can do to win an argument is to completely make the other person unheard. And as soon as they start to get a good point, they're unheard. Things like that. So in doing that, I can say that the bad fruit she bared triggered me. And then I would turn to the coping that I knew, which was drinking, right? Which is stupid. I understand it's stupid, and that's what I did, and that's a mistake that I made. But my drinking then triggers her to feel the need to dominate more conversations because she feels out of control and she wants to control me and my behavior because my behavior is destructive. So the whole thing leads to a cycle of abuse by both parties. And that's the problem, right? And I didn't have to go to a therapist to know all this. However, I did offer to go to couples counseling. But she declined. She had enough. She didn't want to fix the marriage, which to me is egregious sin on the surface. Like, you don't want to fix the thing that you said in front of God in covenant. So anyway, I don't want to negate the human ability to evolve to positive conditions and to improve their life, because God promises to help us if we turn to him, which implies that he can change our hearts and change our actions. Of course he can. And he has. I've grown immensely. I'm definitely not the same person that said I do. And that's in a good way. I'm a better person. And I believe that. So that's what bearing fruit is. And bearing good fruit occurs from doing the exact same thing, just over and over again, good things. That's how we bear good and bad fruit. So be a good tree. And that's all you can do. So you're in control of yourself and not your spouse. So in the context of marriage, make yourself better and better and better. And even if they don't see it, give it time and change your actions and your beliefs and keep focusing on what God has for you, because the lesson's always there. The message is always there. I learned that from Ram Dass and Be Here Now. The message is always there physically in your environment. It's in scripture. It's in prayer. And if you find that, you will grow, and your marriage has to improve. It has to. The only other option is your partner actually never wanted to be with you. They were using you. They were lying to you the whole time, and they wanted out, or they were formulating a plan for months to leave you and didn't have the courage to come to your face and tell you. And there are cowards out there who do things like that. And that, to me, that's just pure evil. If you're able to stay with somebody until it's convenient to leave in order to not face hardships, I see that a lot in marriages. Well, I just didn't have the money to leave. Well, it's not about money and convenience. And if you're going to leave the person, have the courage to tell them. But I also recommend before you do that, you do some soul searching. Ask yourself why you married this person. And if you do believe in the covenant of marriage. Because if you do, you have no business leaving them if you already said your vows in front of God. And if you said your vows in front of God to get a convenient, easy life, a paycheck, comfort, any of that, you probably went in it for the wrong reasons. I'll give you this last thing. My wife asked me, what do you want out of this marriage? And the only thing I told her was to get closer to God. And it offended her at first. And she came around in a few months and was like, or a few weeks maybe. She said, I understand what you mean now. Yeah, that's the only goal I have in anything that I'm doing when I'm thinking of it consciously. And if I'm just in autopilot, not thinking, I'm probably doing it for some sinful and selfish reason. So I find my life flipping, like it says in James, unstable-mindedly and Paul struggled with this too, from Satanist to saint. Satanist to saint. They're either good or bad decisions. I could see the gray area in some things because God uses them. That's the only reason there's a gray area, because he says you're either for me or against me. And you can diagnose me, psychiatrists, pseudo doctors, with borderline personality disorder, because now I'm demonstrating splitting and extreme beliefs. And no, I don't buy it. We are not diseases. We're human beings, and God made us.